So bounce rate has gotten so much better in GA4 and let me show you why. Welcome to the channel, my name is Leon. This channel exists to help you make better decisions in your daily work using your analytics data. And today I'm going to show you where to find bounce rate because it's hidden by default. So we're inside of GA4 and what you'll notice at first is that GA4 does not show bounce rates by default. So by default, if you open up a report, for instance, under acquisition, traffic acquisition, if you take a look at this table, you'll see a lot of metrics around engaged sessions, average engagement time, engagement rate. So it's all about engagement. You do not see bounce rate by default. Let me show you first how you can get bounce rate in your reports. On the home page, you can add it by adjusting one of these blocks and just search for bounce rate. There you go. So there's the average bounce rate of your site. And also in a report, if you want to add bounce rate to that report, we just go into the traffic acquisition report and then go under customize report, metrics, and then here we can add a metric and look for bounce rate. Well, I'm just gonna post it next to engagement rate. I'm gonna hit apply. If we click the button that says save, we have an option save changes to current report or save as new report. Because it's a small change, it's no problem to overwrite this report. If it's a big change, I usually make a new report and add it to my own collection and I leave the default as it is. But again, it's a small change, so I'm just going to overwrite this report. And if I go back into my traffic acquisition report, there should be next to engagement rate, I added the bounce rate right here. So if you want to have bounce rate in every report in GA4, you need to manually add it to all the separate reports. But why is this so much better than what it used to be? Well, traditionally, people would be counted as a bounce when they entered your site and when they did not click through. Especially on like a default setup where you did not do a lot of event tracking, bounce rate was just calculated as the people that entered your site and did not go into a next page. So that traditional definition had some problems because reading was not calculated into bounce rate. It didn't matter if you were spending 1 second or a whole hour on that page. If you did not click through, you would be counted as a bounce. Well, this caused, of course, a lot of problems when analyzing because you would see higher bounce rates on pages that were actually performing quite well. For instance, a contact page, people would enter, they would find the information that they were looking for, they would leave that page. But because reading time was not calculated in the bounce rate, those pages would generally get a high bounce. Also, content pages, news messages that you would post on your site or blog posts, people would enter that page, they would read a lot, but because they did not click through, those pages would get a higher bounce rate. Well, in GA4, the whole definition of bounce rate has changed. So GA4 is still looking at people that land on your site and click through. So if people come to your site and click through, they will not be counted as bounce. But GA4 does something extra. It also takes in account if people are reading on that page. So if people land on your page and do not click through, but they have read more than 10 seconds on that page, they have spent more than 10 seconds on that page, and that page was in the forefront, so it was not on a hidden tab or something, but it was in the forefront, so people were actively engaging with your site during that time, they will also not be counted as a bounce. So if people land on your site and click through, or they land on your site and read for 10 seconds, they will not be counted as bounce. Not only click through, but also reading time is now incorporated in bounce rate. So this is especially good news for people that are working with a lot of content, because now if you look at bounce rate and you see a high bounce rate on a blog post that you have written, you will know that people did not read a lot of content on that page, they did not spend a lot of time on that page, they left early, and that allows you to optimize a lot better using bounce rate. So this also means that if you try to compare your bounce rate in GA4 to other platforms, for instance Universal Analytics or Piwik Pro, bounce rates do not compare well because the definition is just different. Other platforms usually calculated using the old way. GA4 now incorporates reading time, so bounce rates will be totally different. Also, if you previously worked with some benchmarks, for instance, you know that bounce rates in e-commerce are between maybe 30-40% in that ballpark. Probably that experience or that benchmark will not work anymore because the whole definition of bounce rate has changed. You will not be able to compare bounce rates from GA4 to bounce rates in other programs. And I think that's also the reason why bounce rate is hidden by default in GA4. By default, GA4 will not show you bounce rates, but it will show you engagement rates. So with bounce rate, you kind of ask yourself the question, how many people enter my site and leave early? So they enter our site, do not read, they do not click through, they just leave the site. It's almost like people jump into a swimming pool and then realize it's 15 degrees. So you just want to get out of there as quickly as possible. And with engagement rates, it's kind of the opposite. It's how many people enter my site and stay. So it's more like people jump into a swimming pool and then it's like this nice warm bath. And this is the question that I ask myself, is my site, is my landing page, is it a warm bath? Is it what people expect? Or is it like this cold 15 degrees a swimming pool where you just want to get out of there as soon as possible? So if we take a look in GA4 and we take an exact look at engagement rate and bounce rate, how they relate to each other, you'll see that this is exactly the opposite of this. So from all the sessions that we have on our site, 58.2% are engaged sessions, and then the opposite 41.8% did bounce. So this is the time we ask the question, which one's better, engagement rate or bounce rate? Well, personally, I like to work with engagement rate, and I think you should too. And this is why. First of all, because the definition of bounce rate has changed so drastically and it's not comparable with any other platform, it's better to just use the new definition, engagement rate, to avoid any confusion. Especially if you send out reports to people that are not really familiar with analytics and do not know the specifics of it, they will compare, like the old report, bounce rate 80%, and then if all of a sudden they will see bounce rate 40% and they will not know what they are looking at. So it's maybe just a better idea to just start reporting with engagement rates so people will not compare those metrics at all. The second reason I like to work with engagement rates is that I like to stay as close as possible to the GA4 defaults. The default reports in GA4 are really good. I think it's worth your time to really learn those. And the less you have to change, the more your knowledge translates to other sites, to other situations. If you ever leave the job that you currently have, leave the assignment that you currently have and come into another organization, you'll feel at home a lot quicker if you just know the defaults of GA4. And you do not need to change every report all over again. So that's it for today. I hope this video was clear. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. Also, if you like what I'm doing with this channel, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. That really helps me get this channel off the ground. Yeah, that's it for today. See you in the next video.